You ready? You ready? We're going to talk. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you all for. Testing. Let's maybe we can talk. Figure out what you guys are doing. Yeah, I've already talked. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry it took us so long to get this all set up. Just wanted to welcome you all here for coming to protest against the power increases. And I wanted to give you a quick overview of the agenda for the evening. My name is Seraphim Larsen. I'm just a resident here in Cactus Forest. And we have a couple of speakers here. One is Brad Miller, who will give an overview of what's going on, a little bit of the detail, so everyone's on the same page about what's actually happening. Then we have some representatives from the Indian tribe who will give a little bit of their perspective. We also have another local resident and then finally we have our county supervisor, Jeff McCLure. So all of the talks that we have, the speaker should take a total of about 30 minutes maybe, and then we'll open it up for questions. And we do need to have a limit on the number of questions because there's so many people here. And again, thank you all for coming. We also have a petition going around. They might already all be filled up by now. We brought 200 of them, but there might not be enough. And also there's a handout going around. We had some slides ready. So we'll have Q&A at the end. And if anyone has any comments they'd like to make, we'll have an open mic and we'll go as late as we can if anyone has something to say. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Brad Miller. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming here. Community events are very, very important to get involved, and this one's extremely important. Does everybody have a copy of those slides? Okay, so there are copies up here. There are 4 slides, and we also have them via digital, and these are going to be important for the presentation. So as most people know, their power bills increased substantially over the last month. And so one of the main questions that I've always asked is why? So I wanted to know why. So I started digging into these issues. And that's why I was asked to speak on this particular matter. So my name is Brad Miller. I'm just a local attorney who was asked to assist and dig in and look through the Code of Federal Regulations, some of the federal bureaucracy to help people understand the why question. So that's who I am. So I looked into some of these issues to figure out the why. And so I broke out the why. And this goes back to your power bill. So looking through your power bill, there are 3 parts to your power bill. And we're going to learn a little bit about the power bill tonight, probably more than you ever would want to know. But there are 3 parts. The first part is called a base rate. And that's just the base of what everybody pays for the first 50 kilowatts of power. Then there is your kilowatt rating. So think about it like gas in your car. That's your gas that you actually pay. And we pay under SCIP a certain rate. Then finally, the third one, and this is the biggest one for all of us here today, is called a PCA, a power cost adjustment. And this is probably the most important one because this is the one that went up so substantially and appears to be a violation of federal law. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. This goes back to the why question. So, as most of you know, and if you do not, I do not mean to insult your intelligence, but SCIP is a federal regulated entity. It falls under the Department of Interior, which falls under the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So the Bureau of Indian Affairs regulates what we pay for our power. So the Bureau of Indian Affairs, in order to increase our power rate, has to put out a notification, just like we would expect of any government agency. They have to notify us about what they're doing. And for local politics, or maybe state politics, they put it out into the local newspaper, like the Arizona Republic. But for the federal government has its own version of a newspaper. It is called the Federal Register. So the BIA has to put this information out into the Federal Register about what the rate is going to be. They only talk about that second part of your bill, your gas, the kilowatt per hour rate. They do not put out any information regarding the PCA. And this is where the disconnect appears to be. What the BIA said twice over the past 2 years, both in 22, at the beginning of 2022, and at the end of 2022, for our rates effective of the last bill we just received, the BIA said specifically, and this is in your slides, so please grab them, that once the cost of power was increased, they were going to drop the PCA to 0. Let me say that one more time. Once they increased the cost of power, because they took everything into account, they were going to drop the PCA to 0. Don't take my word for it. It's in the Federal Register. Not only did they voice these words, but they also put out a chart, which is also in your slides, that shows that the rate will be 0. So this goes back to my first question. Why? Why? Now, if many of you looked at your last bill, not only did the PCA not go to 0, it actually increased month over month. For most people, it went from about 3 cents a kilowatt hour to almost 6 cents a kilowatt hour, thus doubling your power cost adjustment. And if you look at my chart here, that would add about $112 to a person who had a 2,000 kilowatt hour bill, about $112 to that bill, where we were promised it would be 0. So there's clearly a disconnect between what the BIA is doing and what SCIP is doing. So looking at these slides, let's talk a little bit. So that's the why. So with that information, I decided to go speak with the actual players themselves. I spoke with representatives from the San Carlos Irrigation Project. I also spoke with the Attorney General for the tribe, the San Carlos White Apache tribe. And both of them said this, is that for the power cost adjustment, no notification in the Federal Register is needed. And the reason why is because the power cost adjustment is meant to reflect market rates for them buying power. Okay, just like I told you, you're going to learn more about power today than you probably ever have. So let me give you just a brief little history. So under certain federal rules, SCIP is not allowed to sign long-term power contracts in order to even out our power rates. So they have to buy them on what's called a spot rate. So think about if you had to go buy a car today in 1 hour, you wouldn't have that opportunity to negotiate. You wouldn't have that opportunity to see what that thing was actually worth. You would have to buy it now because guess what? Your customers need it now. And so that's the reason why that PCA is so high. And this goes to the solutions. We're not here today, and I told SCIP this, to raise pitchforks and march onto the SCIP building in Coolidge, right? I know some people want to, right? Is there anybody who does? So that's not going to help. That's not going to help. You know, one of the things that I was taught in boot camp is this concept called aim small, miss small. Aim small, miss small. And I think what this means in this context is we need to have specific tailored solutions for our community to try to lower these rates and to get notifications. So this goes back to that spot power rate. And so we have a couple of representatives here today. Kevin Thompson here behind me is with the Arizona Corporation Commission. Now he's not in charge of regulating power for any of the Indian tribes. But we do have a representative from Eli Crane's office. And this is where a representative from Eli Crane's office can help and where you can help. So the specific tailored solutions are these. The BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, based out of Washington, D.C., has a policy that SCIP is not allowed to sign long-term contracts. So this is what this petition is for that you all are signing here today. We want the BIA to immediately remove that rule so that they can start signing long-term contracts to even out our power rates so we won't be shocked by these PCAs. Okay, that's solution one. And that's something we all can do. The BIA can change their policy. Then the second one I want to talk about is this, is something that Eli Crane's office can help with. When San Carlos Irrigation Project was created in 1932, the federal law prevented them from borrowing money to pay for infrastructure projects, to pay for deferred maintenance. Now, APS and SRP are allowed to issue bonds. They're allowed to assist in their ups and downs of collections. So one of the things, and we're going to ask Congressman Crane's office, is this: we need an amendment to that law to allow San Carlos Irrigation Project to borrow money so that they can pay for deferred maintenance. In my conversation with the San Carlos Irrigation Project, I asked them, what kind of amount are we talking about for deferred maintenance? What would it cost to actually modernize all of the equipment to get it up to a modern day power system equivalent to an SRP or APS? Does anybody know what that number possibly could have been? A lot more than that. About $300 to $500 million. $300 to $500 million. And the reason why it's so high, and I'm going to get into some of these issues. I really want to get to your questions, but I want to propose solutions that we can accomplish here today. That is a solution we can ask Congressman Crane's office to do today. That's on this petition. That's why it's so important that you sign this thing. Now, the third, and this is a long-term solution. Those first two solutions hopefully will take care of some of those ups and downs of that PCA that we're being shocked with currently. The third solution is this, is eventual divestment off of non-tribal areas into either a new power company or to be rolled up into APS or SRP. So it would be regulated by people on the Arizona Corporation Commission. The reason why this is so important is the old concept of the founding of our country is no taxation without representation. The people running our power company, we are not being represented. We have no say on what they do. So we want local control so that we can actually go speak to somebody. He was kind enough to come here today. And also a second member by the name of Nick Myers, I've been texting back and forth with. So these people are available to us so we can voice our concerns. And I think that's what Arizonans want, especially people in this area. So that's the long-term solution. So the first is the contracting issue. The second is the borrowing issue. And then long-term is eventual divestment. So this brings up the big problem. How do we divest those assets into either a new power company or roll them up into SRP or APS? The problem is that the power systems are in such a state of disrepair that it can't possibly be divested right now. So this goes back to a proposal to Congressman Crane's office, is we need some Build Back Better money or some of the energy solution money, solar money, whatever it might be, to be brought into Pinal County to upgrade these systems so that the San Carlos Irrigation Project is an appropriate candidate for divestment. Does everybody understand that? Okay. So those are the proposed solutions, and that's why we're passing out these petitions today. And with that, I will open it up for questions. Oh,
So this extra power that we get charged for, SCIP, where does that go from? That yes, SRP.
I apologize. Go ahead, sir.
The SCIP power that we're paying extra for, where's that extra power coming from? Is it going to SRP, they're like, yeah, right.
All right, so
From those two, why can't we just cut it? And then have that, diverse it all, that's, we don't have to worry about it.
all right, so the question for the people who couldn't hear, the question was where is the power that San Carlos Irrigation Project is purchasing? Where does it come from? And so this goes back to a very complicated question and the bureaucracy of our federal government. So just like anything, when you want to purchase something in the federal government, you have to put out notices and you have to sign contracts. And so those contracts come from various other companies. Now, here's the important piece that I think will address your question, where you're going with this. The big question, and this is a question I asked of SCIP. Well, we have all of these local power generation places. We have another big line from a company called SunZia coming right through Coolidge. Can't we tap into that power? And the answer is no, because of federal law and federal regulation. We can't do that. So that is part of that proposed solution for SCIP to upgrade their infrastructure to hopefully, and this goes back to the contracting question, if SCIP is allowed to contract with who they want to and to contract with people locally, we can then grab that local power and supply it to the residents in this particular area.
To the gentleman's question, where are we buying extra power from right now?
So Supervisor McClure, did you want to answer that? So this is Supervisor McClure. He's our county supervisor for this area.
So the power comes from WAPA, Western Area Power Administration, and that. Thank you. With WAPA, Western Area Power Administration, that's where SCIP buys their extra power from. It's a regional little crazy map, and they get their power from, let's see,
Hoover Dam.
yeah, they get it from Hoover Dam, Boulder Canyon, Central Arizona Project. They get it from various dams, there's 11 dams, right? And what's interesting is if you read their business model for SCIP is we provide water. You know, we provide, back in 1930, we provide water for irrigation and then some power. The power to provide the power the pumps on the farms, and when there were like, 200 farms, oh yeah, those houses too. They didn't expect to have thousands of homes. So it's a 90-year-old business model, which obviously doesn't work, right? So WAPA, what's interesting is WAPA's business model is to supply water for irrigation and navigable waters. Oh yeah, if we have any power left over, we'll sell that. Same model, so you're in the same predicament. And this is back to the federal issues that Brad is discussing. So that's where they get their power. They can't buy it from somebody else. They got to buy it from WAPA.
Now we have a couple of members of the San Carlos tribe that would like to speak to the group.
Councilwoman, you want to go first?
They're calling in via phone.
Okay. So while we're waiting, did you want to say something?
I know.
My name is Mark White. I'm also a resident of the area and a customer of SCIP. Been in the area for a little under 3 years. Yeah, sorry. Not used to a microphone, not my normal day job. I just got latched onto this right off the bat and started working, trying to spread the word. No particular legal expertise, but I did do a little research, and this has been going on for 30 years. In the early 90s, there was a law passed saying to divest the power from the VIA, and it didn't happen. And then there's problems in the early 2000s as well. And so now is the time for us to hold our representatives' feet to the fire and get it done, because we can't just let them say, well, it's not convenient right now. Well, it's not convenient anytime. It's going to be hurt. It's going to be painful. We're going to have to deal with whatever it costs us to get our power until this gets resolved. But we don't start now, it'll be another 30 years before it happens. So we all need to stick together, keep our voices unified, work on those problems that can be solved, and work towards those long-term solutions so that we can get this problem done. It will literally take an act of Congress. So it isn't going to happen this week, this month, or even this year. But we can't let off.
It's not going to happen this year.
We're not going to get divested. We're not. You know how fast Congress works. So, but it started 30 years ago and never got held up. So it looks like we got the tribal members ready, but let's stick together, work on solutions that can be achieved and get this done. Thank you.
Unless that solution is gonna save us some money here real quick. A lot of people are gonna be hurt.
Undoubtedly.
That's not.
Okay, which one are you on? Hello? Hold
Yeah.
on.
No, undoubtedly.
Hello? 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 Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
My name is Ina Salter. I am the 7 Mile District Councilwoman for the San Carlos Apache Tribe. And I am glad I'm joining you guys through Zoom. But the first thing I wanted to share with you guys is just to educate you that there is no affiliation with the San Carlos Apache Tribe and SCIP. We are customers just like you, and we have concerns as well with this increase. And so we share in your grief. We are in this together, and we got to find a solution for our people. And because in the San Carlos area, along the McCLure River, we have elders, we have children, and we have families who are affected by this increase. And so we are trying to look for solutions for our people. And we are dealing with the same issues that each of you are dealing with. Though we're miles apart, we're still dealing with these issues. And not only that, the rate increase is outrageous. SCIP knew their infrastructure needed to be replaced. It's falling apart. We suffer blackouts that go for hours a day. In the summer and part, the temperatures are over 110 degrees. And rather than incremental increases, customers have to pay for the line replacement all at once. No other utility company in the nation has ever imposed a rate increase like this. SCIP was supposed to pay 2 mils per kilowatt hour for the tribe and its federal program since 1928. This was to compensate the tribe for the taking of our like Tulip stand. SCIP never did. And so this rate increase is affecting our community members, cancer patients who are staying poor in hospital care cannot afford this increase. In fact, I have one constituent, an elder, who lives in a tiny house whose electricity bill was $400 with an additional $300. And he doesn't even make that much. And so share the same with your people. So, even though the name says San Carlos Irrigation Project, it's important to know that we are not affiliated with that, and the name behind that dates back to the old San Carlos era. So we are in this together, and so we need to find a solution to this increase. If I got on earlier, they have a lot of options than we do. So we might have to stick out with SCIP. We don't know, but we're looking for solutions. And we do have plans to have a SCIP next week, Thursday, here in the San Carlos area. So I just wanted to share with each and every one of you sitting there today that we are in this together. And so we are feeling it here. And so we have to speak up for our people and find a solution. And so I just wanted to come here via Zoom and let you know that the San Carlos Apache Tribe is taking the initiative to also meet with SCIP and follows the exact steps that your town is following. I appreciate you giving me the time. I also have our attorney online, Alex Ritchie, and maybe at this time, he will be able to speak on behalf of the tribe as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Alex Ritchie. I'm an attorney for St. Charles Apache tribe. Mr. Miller and everybody listening, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak, and thank you so much for signing that petition. Mr. Miller's ideas are good ideas. We broached those same ideas in part with the Secretary of Interior, Deb Allen, and with the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs. They basically said their hands are tied because they are bound by the act. And there is actually two acts, one in 1926 and one in 1928. These two acts were put under Interior and Indian Affairs because it is to provide power not just to San Carlos Apache tribe, but to the Gila River Indian community and the San Carlos Irrigation District. The only reason the name San Carlos is in San Carlos Irrigation Project in the San Carlos Irrigation District is because both were next to what was the old San Carlos. That was an identifying geographical area. So that's how it ended up under BIA. Now, just because it's under BIA does not mean it's a quote unquote Indian program, because it also provides power to everybody there in Florence and the kids. So the issue is what to do. We agree with Mr. Miller that divestiture is not a good idea today. It's a failed system. The SCIP is broke. Its lines are broken. Its infrastructure is ancient. And as Councilwoman Walter noted, we suffer blackouts on a regular basis, especially during the summer. And these have gone to weeks at a time. So if it's not divestiture, what could it be? And I think the idea to get the Bureau of Indian Affairs to stop looking to the spot market is a good one. However, the federal government is bound by the federal acquisition regulations, and I'm not sure they'll be able to relax on that one. The only other alternative, I think, is that Congress, recognizing the number of people that are affected, the two tribes that are affected, should inject funds into SCIP to fix these lines. I also agree with Mr. Miller that the PCA should be at zero, and it is not. We have no explanation, nor have we been given one. And the explanation we've gotten from SCIP does not seem to be an adequate explanation either. I do note that San Carlos is going to purchase the SCIP lines that come onto our reservation. And we have two options that we're pursuing over the next 3 to 5 years. One of those options is a 10 megawatt solar power transmission facility. Right now we consume 3 megawatts. We will wheel back, which is a way of saying sending back the power through to SCIP and back to its customers. Now that power will be significantly less price than the SCIP power from the spot market, because it will be solar power. The second option, which we are pursuing, is a 550 megawatt facility. And that will be a huge change, but that's not an immediate response that anybody today can rely on. It will reduce your electric power significantly after 5 years from now. But those are our options, and I would be happy to get your petition and before the council and get a resolution to support it and get people here to sign it and send that back. We have 17,100 members. I believe something like 75% are voting age. And all of them will sign that petition because everybody in St. Carlos, as Councilwoman Salter is saying, is suffering. Just to give you an idea of the impact, there's even a member who approached us the other day. He said he's going to kerosene because he cannot afford his electric bill. Our hospital, which is now serving the entire reservation, it has 150 doctors and over 90 nurses, a staff of 800. Our power bill went up from $700,000 a year to $1.2 million. That's a $500,000 increase. And that's just unbelievable, and it's wrong. So as Councilwoman Salter says, we join with you in this opposition. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
What is the next meeting? This is not the end.
This is not the end. So the idea is to get these petitions into the hands of the people who can affect change.
Can we call?
And then we want a response from those people. Yes, we can. We can call another meeting. So everybody should have an email, should be on the email list. And so we can respond and get on that email list and potentially set a meeting that way. Great idea. Any other questions?
Question bus. Okay.
Well, I'll come right back to you, ma'am.
Doesn't buy power back from solar. You can have it. Why don't they do that? Their regulation and stuff said you have all these solar farms around Florence.
Yeah, so the question was, the question was, is why does SCIP not buy back power from solar, housetop solar and other solar farms? And yes, it's correct. There's a regulation against that. They also don't receive the same subsidies that like an APS or an SRP does because they're a federal entity. That's what I was told by SCIP today.
All of the solar and Coolidge is also the APS and Salt River project. They purchase every drop of it, comes right into their substations and goes out and goes to Phoenix, Tucson, wherever it goes.
I mean, there's how many are popping up all over.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Show the
One month on harvest is why not on regular 31 day hours? Budget bill.
So the question is regarding budget billing and then evening out the number of days for each bill.
You got
34.
So let's try to answer the questions that we can answer. Some of these questions will be more properly answered by San Carlos Irrigation Project. So maybe questions we can ask or answer regarding solutions, because I think that's why we're here, is to attempt to find solutions, short-term and long-term. Yes, sir.
My electric bill went up from $350 in June to $821 or $812. And yet I'm cutting my power back everything I could. Run the air conditioning at night, I kept it at 80 to 82 during the day. I did everything I could think of to reduce my power, and it still shot high. Why not both?
Yes, sir. And so that's some of the issues. So the question is talking about the increase in power. The gentleman cut back on power and still his bill increased $300 something per month. And remember I talked about the three parts of the power bill, that PCA is responsible for about 40% of that increase. All right, questions? Yes, ma'am.
Some of us cannot pay our bill for this month yet because it's so skyrocketing. Now, that's what happened. 2 jobs. Now put yourself in that position. And you make only $1,000 every day. You barely have enough to pay, much less. Having said that, if I were not to actually pay that bill tax for again, what happened? I'll let you say they haven't said it. That I can't watch it at 55. It's not higher. So, is there going to be some kind of plan for this month for those who haven't paid yet and can't afford it? Or they just bite the bullet and hope for it down the road. What do you do? Right.
So
Light a fire under Eli plan.
So the short-term solution is the public backlash, people speaking to the San Carlos Irrigation Project, talking about that power cost adjustment. So I asked them about this today. And they said the reason why it was so high is because the cost of natural gas was significantly higher, which is why they had to adjust their PCA to be almost 6 cents per kilowatt hour. So I think the short-term solution is we need to demand of San Carlos Irrigation Project at least some sort of forward notification, whether it be 30 or 60 days or something more than 2 weeks, that they're going to increase our power bill over 40%. So we need to.
Get a $100 bill. We got a letter. We're getting $200 saying on that. If you haven't checked your mail today, we all got one. And that is still, my bill is still $400 higher than the highest bill we've ever had. And that's taking that amount off of it. So I agree, like, what is the short term? Because the month that we're in this month, I appreciate everything you've done. I think everyone here does, but this is outrageous for this month. So what are our options to stand our ground and not pay it? That's price gouging.
So the options are, oh, all right. You want to talk?
I just got a couple of things to say.
Sure.
First of all, you can get a lot done with the Emergency Powers Act. We've got a governor that can do that. We can get things done if she declares a state of emergency.
Okay.
With the state of emergency, you can get people mobilized. You can get people from out of state, in state, all kinds of states. We can get poles in the air. We can do that. They can also get into what's called the energy imbalance market, which is what you pay all this money into California. We sell all this electricity out to California. At any given time, at Coolidge Generating Station, we have 9 units sitting idle at 58 megawatts a pop. Anything can happen, but if you cut the bureaucracy, we can get those units up and running in 10 minutes. We're providing enough power for everybody here at any given time at a reasonable rate.
And that comes to my question. Who's gonna light a fire under Eli Crane? Because it sounds like he's the only guy that we've got on our side that can do anything about it. Does he have a representative here?
Yes,
He does. He's here. Where is she? Let's hear from him.
so that's all. It can happen.
Thank you very much.
We can make it happen.
I appreciate that.
The dam, they are over Coolidge Dam. And a few years, well, in the 80s, there was a flooding issue. They messed up some of the generators, some of the turbines. Later, they had a company come and tell them, okay, for a tax credit, we will fix that. We will repair it. We'll take care of it and we'll give it back to you. We just want the tax credit. They declined that. They shut down the diesel plant over there in Coolidge. They don't run that anymore. They won't do any solar. We can throw all the money we want at them, but it's time for them to step down and let somebody else that can run a business and actually take care of stuff. They have a plant over there. They just spent $12+ million to build a filling facility. And it has an exercise room, it has a cafeteria, has all of those muscles, but they are going to jack my rates up and I have to pay for their inappropriate investment and the inability to have anybody take care of the business they're supposed to? I don't think so.
And that's why some of these petitions will be going to the people who are supposed to be regulating these and being the watchdogs over these particular groups. Yes, sir.
Solid shit. You got more money in the same Harlem with the way they can. You gotta have parking. Everybody just had a gun or something. But I can get the design and archaeology. Just start. So government money. And if you have a company or people like that gentleman that know what they're doing, the problem we have is they don't know what they're doing. They have no. Everybody that they're dealt with them, even trying to pay a bill, I mean, what's in the front of the
Slowly. Miss.
Out there for public auction, they're gonna buy more equipment because it's not being or running places not know what they're doing. Somebody can go in there and make some happen and make that place actually.
People who call, I'm telling them they should charge us more. If you call, they tell you that. We should charge you more.
Miss Mills, are you still here? Hank, we have a representative from Eli Crane's office here. So we just want to give her an opportunity to speak.
I didn't hear that question. What was the question? Was there a question for me? So my name is Lori Mills and I work for Representative Eli Crane. We started getting calls from citizens about 2 weeks ago, and within minutes, the congressman had directed his staff to look at this legally, get a hold of Bureau of Indian Affairs, and he alerted the staff here on the ground in Arizona.
What's the timeline?
He's already got a meeting scheduled next week with BIA. So we know that things don't go really quick in Washington.
And how are his constituents that are
Yeah.
in this room gonna hear about it?
I suggest everybody goes onto his website and signs up.
No. He needs to contact his constituents. That's what he's there for.
Well, he has-
Our responsibility to contact him.
Absolutely, and he works for all of you. He does do a newsletter that he sends out regularly.
I've got an issue. He needs to get on one.
He is on it.
I
He's already on it. He has a meeting scheduled. He's already on it. He's been on it since the very first call we got.
Council sign the grade that we already have on our side.
Yes, you do.
Now should be involved.
I believe your state senator is involved.
Yes.
Yes,
So
excellent.
our supervisors are involved.
Excellent.
Our state senator, TJ Shope, is involved.
Yeah, but I can guarantee you that the congressman, the very first time he heard about it, he directed the staff to start working on it.
Oh, did you contact Mark Kelly? Okay.
Yes.
So both Mark Kelly and Kirsten Cinema have been notified.
I thought the question was what are we supposed to be doing now? That was what we wanted to bring you up. Yes.
People can pay their bills now. What can we do
I'm not sure.
So just like the gentleman with SRP, I don't know where he went. We can ask for an emergency declaration. I don't know how likely that is to go through the governor's office, but in the short term, these petitions will make their way to San Carlos Irrigation Project.
How does that make it here? Yeah, she's hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, she is. Absolutely.
And we're all, some of us have better jobs than we don't.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're the ones that hurt the most.
Maybe what I can do is forward all of these petitions to the governor's office and ask him to make a meeting.
Well, I think you get the hold of the governor. Find out why we have plants that aren't running, probably environmental companies, because I've read something.
Are we good?
We need to find out what we can do immediately to get electric to and call.
we have plants sitting in coolers that aren't running. That's stupid. That is stupid.
Yes, ma'am.
I know what's never done nothing different. The last 2 months, they said I've used over 2,000. This last month's bill was 2307. I've never used that much, ever. So I said, if everyone look at your wattage, I've asked them to come out and check my meter. They told me that if there was nothing wrong with it, they would charge me $40. So I asked them if they would just come out and change my meter. They did it for the supervisor, and they came out and changed and gave me a new meter, which I can't read because it changes constantly. to different numbers.
There's more.
So they did come out and change my meter, but I suggest everyone look at your usage. Let's say bump that way up.
Did they ever get back to you? Did they ever get back to you about your meter? Because they never got back to me.
They sent someone else.
All right, I just want to make sure everybody signed the petition? Okay, excellent. So we're going to get those petitions. We're going to send them to the entities that are involved. We will also send them to the governor's office, and we can request of our local representatives what their proposed solutions are on the state side, not just on the federal side. Yep. Yes.
And our representative, of course, that if everybody here that
Yeah, so we're going to gather all of those tonight and immediately get those to our representatives and demand a moratorium. So that's obviously the shortest term solution, is to get rid of the PCA immediately. And so that's part of the petition. We are asking for that to be implemented immediately. Yes, sir.
Are there any options for people with limited income?
So the question was, are there options for people with limited income? I believe there are, but those will go through the San Carlos Irrigation Project. Yes. Well, you can't. Well, I don't suggest you do that, but I think there are legal.
That's what the letter says.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
Sorry, just one moment. There's a lot of people asking how do they get more copies of the petition and where they can send them. If you want to get more information, copies of any of the things that we've passed out, or the petitions, or just to stay in the loop on what's happening, you can email skippoweroutrage@gmail.com. You can skip power outrage, all one word, SCIP power outrage @gmail.com. You can also mail Irini at the PO Box 1188, Florence, Arizona. PO Box 1188, and we can get out information to you that way too. So anyway, back to Brad. Maybe we should pass this around or ask people to come up.
Would it be easier if you came up so everybody can hear your question? Would that be easier?
Yeah.
My question is, if you have solar power, will San Carlos give you credit for that? Not money back, but give you credit?
Yeah, they give you kilowatt credit. So they roll it back per kilowatt. They don't give you money. Back to you.
Just talked to a solar company today, and I was informed that they will put a separate meter in when they do solar. And then
I do.
There's measuring that kilowatt that you generate from your solar, and when you need it, it comes back to you.
All right.
How do we verify that?
Do you have any questions?
business.
You guys talk into the microphone.
And their BIA, but that's a selling word. Why can't they just sell it off to SRD or APS or another to sell it? They can fix their infrastructure on that. That way somebody can come in, take over and do what's needed. That'd be a simple thing, to sell it off.
All right, so the question is why can't SCIP just sell the company and somebody else purchase it? Because it's a federal organization. They cannot sell that. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Can we just go to the other power companies, one that is in village? No?
What's the question? The CIP?
Yes.
What's the question?
Can we put this in the back?
What do you mean you?
Like, can they start servicing us instead, in addition to the village?
Yeah.
And then I wanted to add something else. So, to the point of the lady there, she said that the usage changed. I actually noticed that, I was comparing my bills. I wasn't even living in the house the whole month of August. And somehow, and I have solar. So my bill should have been like $30, $50. I got $200 bill. They said somehow I used 1,000 kilowatts. I have no idea how that happened. So I talked to other people. They also said they've been looking at their bills every single month for the last 4 to 5 months. The usage is going up, even though nothing changed. And they compared the last year's bills to this year's bills, and it looks like there is more usage. And it's the same amount of people living in the house. So I just wanted to ask everybody to look into it because that's really strange. It's like, it seems like not only the rate increase, but something is going on also with our usage.
But since you've been helping the area, are they working with any lobbyists to try to Torres work with?
Are you asking if San Carlos Irrigation Project has lobbyists?
Right.
The San Carlos tribe? Yes, they do have lobbyists. I know for sure they have state lobbyists. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good idea. We'll ask them about that. I'll call the Attorney General Ritchie, the one who spoke, and I'll ask him about that. 85132.
I've called San Carlos Irrigation Project, and I've gotten contact on neighbors, and they're not interested in hearing from us, so you know them, got no parents. So redirecting, even when there's a power line, you select something that means something. So at the end of the day, it's saying redirect San Carlos Irrigation Project, this one on deaf ears. So there has to be some sort of external forces at play to direct them to help us. Because I mean, people have a speaking of families or having air conditioning is ludicrous on top. It's wrong, morally and ethically. And then on top of that, I can contribute to the hospital claim. I have to take care of that hospital. I'm a working air conditioning technician. I take care of St. Charles for having a hospital. And there are weeks that they're on backup generators. And there are times they actually have to transport patients from the hospital. It's wrong on all levels. They can't take care of their own people.
Well, and this is the reason why they need to be divested. I agree.
And sooner than later.
Where did Congress, Congress, where did she go? Mills, okay, so I saw you there, I didn't see you come back. I just have everybody in here is a little bit worried about what's going on, obviously. But when you're really thinking about it, you want us to direct our questions and direct our problems to Congress. When you have a Hawaiian island that just burned down, they didn't do nothing for them. This is a small little room here. Where do we rate?
Unless you're in Ukraine, nothing happens. Yeah. Take my word for it.
something I would like to do. I would like to organize, categorize, Florence, and get some level-headed people together. And then from there, we go to the upper area of San Carlos or SCIP, if you're calling it, and get a response from them in that level. And then and come up with the ways that the single parents, the retirees, the people that are on limited income, and then maybe come up with a payment system so that what SCIP is dealing with, we can help deal with it on our own. So Florence people, I'd like to see them. The monastery people, we need to see them so that we don't have this guy's group and go to San Carlos.
Well, that's the only way you're gonna get it happen because they
No.
will give you the point.
Oh, yeah.
So
If
you're-
we get the right people together.
Yeah.
Mr. Miller, I asked San Carlos 2 years in a row that they get this budget bill. Helping some, Lord, they tell me they don't have no money, they do. They have no paper. Hire somebody. Hire somebody to start people in their job. They rely on it. You know, we just pay the same rate every month. That was help. But they was not hired nobody to handle that. That's it's just to the point we can't afford it. I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for coming out. My knowledge with utilities, typically when a utility is sold or traded hands, there's an assessment that's assessed to each customer. Is that going to happen? Also, just to comment to the lady in the back, the mother, why don't we do a GoFundMe? We have Arizona Republic right here. How embarrassing is that? I'll be watching for it.
No short term insight.
So one of the issues is there a proper cause of action? Is there a legally recognizable claim that you can make against the government?
That you've already said that it violates.
So that's one of the reasons why we're having a meeting here today, is to talk about potential solutions. A lawsuit certainly is not a short-term solution. It could potentially kick him in the rear, but ultimately that's up to everybody in this room. If you want a lawsuit, then we can discuss a lawsuit. But that's not something that I can necessarily bring as being the attorney. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So, I came from, I married her father was in charge of the San Carlos Irrigation Drainage District, not the impact. And he was involved with Senator McCain with a divestiture to take over that so that they could run it and mess it up, to be polite. They went years to when they got to the end and they were about to do it. He was positive it was going through. They tried to, we just shut it down that quick. And it was over.
Divestiture can happen because it did with the Gila River. It did with the Gila River tribe.
What's to stop them from charging whatever they want?
Is there any price that's illegal for them to charge? Can they charge us $5,000 a month for electricity?
So again, I'm not a representative of SCIP. I don't run them.
People are being really crappy to him. He's on our side. You guys, so I
Yeah,
just feel like, I mean, I think we can all just take a step back. He is for real fighting for us. So tone it down on your treatment of him. He can't
So-
go.
So
Jesus, yeah.
What are you crying about?
So to answer your question, sir, is that according to SCIP, their increase in raises is based upon an annual study, and that annual study is almost completed. So we'll know what the price raises will be for next year soon. So they do an annual study. In addition, just like I told you, there's three parts of that power bill. You have your power, you have your base rate and your power cost. That goes in the annual study. The PCA is completely separate. That depends on what they can buy power for at the spot rate. So that can change from time to time.
The federal government buying this from the federal government, it's WAPA, where they're buying energy from, is that also a federal government entity?
No, I believe it's a state entity.
It's federal.
It is federal? Okay.
Now, as far as them actually giving us a regulation,
I want to ask that I forgot to mention the last time I spoke. The 4 years that I've lived where I live being undersigned college, they've never once read my meter when charging my bill. So what am I actually being charged for? Because it's not my rate and it's not my usage. So is that going to change? Will I actually have someone come out at least once to see what I've actually used? Because I've never had one person consent product step on my property.
No, they read them with the computer. They drive down the street and every house that the computer goes by, it reads the meter. And it puts it into the computer. They take the computer back out to the office, the multi-million-dollar office. They plug it in and it dumps everything out of the computer into the machine. The machine prints the bill and that's it. No, it's not a criminal organization. Let me tell you, you're working with the United States government and the Bureau of Indian Affairs has always messed things up from day one. They can't wash their hands of it because they're part of the government and they're going to mess things up. I was part of that 90s group that was trying to put the electrical district together to buy the whole facility and bring it under a company like ED2 or ED5 or ED6 down at Elon and make it into an electrical district where the people owned it. And we had everything all ready to go when they pulled the plug on us. The government. I mean, they pulled the plug and there was nothing anybody could do. So we had set this thing up in Oracle. We had a complete field of officers that covered the whole area. We were going to take the whole thing. And it went to hell in a handbasket.
I like that.
Don't forget, said about it, is there such thing as a limit to what they can charge?
That's a fair question.
I don't believe it is.
Is there such thing as a limit to what they can, some legal limit?
Yes, there's a legal limit because it's based upon those market studies and the spot price. That's the limit of what they can do.
Yeah, and who's doing the market study?
So they put out the market study. Again, I'm not defending the practice, but they put out a market study that each of us can read. It's very boring. I've read the last one. And they put out a market study where people can actually comment on it, complain about it, talk about how it's wrong, potentially adjust the rates, whatever the case might be. So we can all do that when it's next produced in the Federal Register.
You guys remember when we had the rate increase, that we had room Senator Blake and Kyle down here to the Enron? We were paying back in $1,700 a month. It was like 3 months before something happened, and that's when we started to bring the PCA or the regular. And then it wasn't that much. It's gradually going up, and that's the problem with on it and somebody else, it's never gonna go down.
So I'm Sherry, and I am here as a citizen, and then I work with a lot of businesses out on Main Street and in Pinal County. And so I know that there are people hurting because of this rate increase. And I want to know what can be done. We are the county seat here in Florence. And what can be done if there's a phone number or if there's some sort of access that somebody needs to contact in order to get help, like this lady was talking about. I've been there before, and I know it's hard because it's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you're at that level where your basic needs aren't met, then you can't think about anything else, much less having fun, much less going out to dinner. And so a lot of our businesses right here in Florence, we've got a lot of mom and pop businesses that I work with and I promote every day. And so they're going to suffer because when we have $200 taken away, even for somebody like me, that I'm going to eat out less potentially. I'm going to go shopping less, and if you look at everybody in this room, everybody's affected by this rate increase. The PCA is out of a line, and we need to know, number one, short term, what can be done for the people that are having a hard time paying this bill? And it's hard for us to pay this because, like a lot of people have said, they're not increasing their usage. In fact, most people in this room are probably using less, even snowbirds that are gone all summer. Then they come back to a bill and they're going to be like, huh, yeah, shopping in Florence is the last thing I want to do. So first of all, we need to know, is there a phone number? Is there a website? Is there some sort of a coalition that can help people that are hurting? And, paying that extra bill it's not just a one-time thing. So we need to figure that part out, I think, to help people.
I agree. And this is why we're here as a community, to get volunteers, maybe to run that type of organization. We need people to step up in the community to handle these issues.
There's an indicator.
Not only do I love our community, I also am a realtor of 40 years, and I see another problem too. And I don't want to add oil to the fire, but I will. But before that, going back, it's my understanding, and I can be incorrect, definitely, but it's my understanding that if you need financial help to work something out, if you're with SRP, they have multiple programs to help you. If you are with San Carlos, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, that if you're not tribal, you get nothing. Now, I don't mean.
It's not my daughter.
Then, and there's other situations like that where if you're not tribal, you don't have access to some. I see some people shaking their head. Yes. You don't have the same access if you're non-tribal. My own daughter has Native Americans in her family at her home living, and they are also registered. San Carlos will not give them anything. You're familiar. Yes. So there's things. Getting back to the, and if I'm taking too much, tell me to shut up. I have a thick skin. But besides needing temporary help right now, 30 days to 6 months to some of this gets ironed out. There's got to be a program because you're not going to get it through San Carlos, is my understanding. You've got to find, and now we're going to have to prepare Arizona state government, and hopefully COPS can do something, or you have contacts where the government can do a short-term. If you're trying to get them to hold off on that, I really don't have high hopes for them doing that. But maybe in some of our surplus monies that used to be in the treasury for Arizona, they can step in, and our Congress people can do something on a very short term to give these people a chance, because we need 3 phases. We cannot solve this short-term, instant, I need to buy groceries, I need to pay my house. That is a separate strategy. Strategy number 2 is looking at making a path to follow as far as what we can and can't do. These are the experts that know that. That's long-term though, guys. This is not gonna help with next month's house payment down. Now, I apologize right now for what I'm about to say, but I'm right on. This, if anybody, and I'm not saying everyone goes out and sell their property, no, I'm against that. But as this progresses, if we don't get some solutions on right and now, this is going to take, and if you're one of the people that wants to or needs to sell, or if you're in a pending foreclosure issue and you want to save your credit, there's things you can do and things you can't do. And as agents, we have to disclose stuff we know, even if the seller doesn't. When you're selling a property, we can lose our license if we don't. It's real serious stuff. There's a bunch of us realtors that are becoming aware of this. Now you tell me how we're going to sell somebody's property with this hanging over it. I also consider that that is really jeopardizing every homeowner that's not tribal in our community. I apologize for talking so much, but I'm very passionate because my own daughter, I sold her a house from in that location.
When I called St. Carlos last year about the solar, they don't buy that. The only help they'll give you is $10 off if you make, I think, under 21,607. And then the rest of everybody else gets charged 50 cents if you do that. But one of the suggestions that the gentleman that I spoke to gave me was to turn off my hot water heater breaker. I don't know electrical wise if that's a smart idea. I've been doing it for a year and it has helped. So anybody else, I keep my AC at 81, it does not change, no matter how uncomfortable everybody is. But I can't afford another $695.02 bill. But try turning off your breaker. And I turn it off. I mean, it was nice with the hot weather. Yeah, well, it's something to see, but it's just an idea that I figure I'd throw out there.
So you're saying the legal limit they can charge is based on PCA number? So the market? Something about the market.
Yeah, so there are, like I was saying, there's 3 parts to your power bill. So the PCA is dependent on spot market pricing, what they have to buy power for that they can't produce. The second part of your power bill is your actual power cost. That is determined by an annual study. And the annual study for this year is about
Annual study based on market price.
no, so they do an annual study based upon their needs. So they look at the potential needs, upgrades to the system, what pricing is locally in the market. There's lots of other factors. You can actually go review the thing. So so the question was this increase illegal? The issue was that they were supposed to notify, they sent one notification, BIA said that there would be no PCA. And then SCIP came in and said, we're going to increase the PCA. So their notification requirement is just for the general public, not to a particular public. So the question was, can we set up a meeting with St. Carlos to address us? I spoke to them today. At this point, they're not ready to something. But I can try. I can try. I'll ask. That's a good point. That makes sense. Anything else before we end? I think we need to get out of here. No.
Brad?
You may want to get that out.